Hello again. Welcome and welcome back. My name is Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. Today is Sunday, February 23rd, 2020. And in my last video about some of the awful, corrupt, crooked news personalities that are trying to drive a wedge between us, I spoke very briefly, just in passing, about some of the social media censorship that's happening. And right on cue, it happened to me. I got into a little bit of a war of words in the comment section of some old, washed up, hack, Democratic shill Hollywood comedians. And in the defense of these comedians, they took the joke right in stride. But the angry, brainwashed leftist fans did not. They were really quite angry with me. They started reporting my photos, getting my pictures deleted. And as a result, my story was shadow banned. Which, some people say it's not real. Oh, they're lying. No, it's real. It's 100% real. My story's showing up from my end, but when I look at it from a friend's account, that very same photo didn't show up. So that's real. It's very Orwellian, of course, especially considering my account is not that large. It doesn't reach that many people yet. But the powers that be over at Instagram are going through this stuff with a fine-tooth comb and making sure that everybody falls in line. Otherwise, you're out of here. It's very strange. It's very strange stuff, but it's also kind of a testament to how the private sector is certainly more effective than the government. It would take weeks for the government to get to something like this, but, Zuckerberg and his minions can get to it in a couple of minutes. And speaking of Instagram, AOC was on the live stream. Now, this is a little bit older, but I just can't let it go. I can't let this one go. She did a live stream, which I'm sure all of her followers saw. But anyway, with her boyfriend, Riley. And they talked about racism. And he said that, we really, as a white person, I really have to talk to other white people about racism because they may not know what they're doing or what they're saying is racist, and we just always have to be open to conversation about it. And it's like, the logic is so circular. It makes no sense. I mean, with this line of thinking, you can literally make anything racist. I mean, if you say, they just don't know that it's racist. You could say that about anything. It's a vicious cycle. And on top of that, they say, we need to be open to the conversation. No. I know you guys are never open to conversation. That's why things get so violent. That's why people start reporting pictures and people start throwing hot coffee and using bike locks and all sorts of things. Is because they jump right past the conversation straight to action. But, the soft bigotry of low expectation, the white savior complex with this man is just through the roof. It's astounding, astonishing. I don't know what word to use for this particular situation, but it's really quite embarrassing. He's obviously being dominated by AOC, and she's just sitting there like, yes, say it, speak the lines. It's a complete and total mess. And speaking of messes, Bloomberg finally got up on the debate stage. No boxes. He didn't have a box. He did get completely beat down by all the candidates. We saw it coming. He spends $400 million to make the debate stage and immediately gets scalped by Liz Warren. She was on a war path, as it were. And to Bloomberg's credit, he got one punch in at Bernie, right? So he called Bernie out for being a millionaire socialist with 3 homes, which I've been saying for a very long time. But as they're all jumping him, he gets one punch in and it lands on Bernie. But Mike, I know you have all the money in the world, but I don't know if money can buy you out of this one. I just don't know. You're not even on the ballot in the Nevada caucuses, which of course Bernie won. Now, Tom Perez and the DNC didn't want to commit to same-day results, and they wanted all the volunteers to sign non-disclosure agreements, which is also very ironic because the candidates at the debate all jumped on Mike Bloomberg for having non-disclosure agreements with some of his old employees. So the hypocrisy is really quite glaring with this one, and it begs the question, who are they even cheating for this time around? Because it used to be Joe, but now obviously they realize Joe is not up for the task, and Bloomberg's not even on the ballot. So who are they cheating for? Is it Buttigieg? Who knows? I mean, Bernie won, but they don't like it. I mean, all the news media personalities and the hard left weirdos like AOCs, the AOCs of the world pushed everybody so far left away from Trump, but the establishment's like, whoa, not that far left. We can't go Bernie, which is correct. I can't stand Bernie. I've said it a million times, but it's just, they've tangled themselves up pretty good, and now they're trying to claw and climb their way out of it. It's a complete mess. They're obviously cheating, but we don't even know for who at this point, right? And of course, Bloomberg not being on the ballot in Nevada has gone over to MSNBC to talk to Al Sharpton to see if he can buy himself a couple of those black votes. Hey, Al, you got any black votes I can buy from you? Because he knows that Al Sharpton will play ball. That's what he's known for many years. Anyway, speaking of playing ball, Andrew Yang has joined CNN, which might be a good look for both of them, right? I mean, if you can't beat them, join them, as far as Andrew Yang is concerned. And as far as CNN is concerned, this might pull them a little bit closer to reality, because Andrew Yang is on record saying that Donald Trump is not the cause of all our problems. And that, I would have thought, was enough to make sure that he would never get a job with CNN, but maybe little by little, baby steps, they're starting to see the light. Now, of course, all of Andrew Yang's policies are still completely unrealistic, but, these things take time, all right? And Ilhan Omar has finally been actually confirmed as having married her brother for some weird immigration fraud scheme that she has going on, which I'm sure is just the tip of her corruption iceberg. But this is now confirmed by a Somali community leader, apparently. And in reading about this, I also learned that Google cannot be trusted. Now, I think a lot of people knew this already, thanks to the Project Veritas team still doing the Lord's work. But they, of course, and also Dr. Robert Epstein, not to be confused with Jeffrey Epstein, but I digress. You can look into that on another night. But they are lying to you, right? Their auto population is completely fake. If I look at DuckDuckGo and type in Ilhan Omar, a whole different set of stuff pops up than when I type in Ilhan Omar into Google. Now, I'm sure there's loads of things that this is the case for. Even, I remember when I type in Lisa Page, nothing comes up. But if I go to DuckDuckGo, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok immediately pops up. So Google, of course, can't be trusted. It's hard left nonsense, just like the rest of them. And another crooked congresswoman, right? So we have Ilhan Omar doing her thing. And of course, AOC and Ayanna Pressley and Pariah, whatever, Jayapal, they're all messed up. They're all crooked. But Katie Hill, our favorite bisexual congresswoman, is back in the news. And she is, of course, blaming something that she calls biphobia for getting her ousted from Congress. Now, I'm sure it had nothing to do with you cheating on your husband with a campaign staffer. I'm sure it had nothing to do with you nude on the internet smoking a bong. I'm sure it had nothing to do with your campaign staffer's husband, who you guys were probably all swinging together. That's unconfirmed. But, one of her campaign staffer's husband was pinched by the feds for hacking one of her political opponents. I'm sure it had nothing to do with that. It was just biphobia, which is, of course, a made-up boogeyman word, because, bisexuality as a whole is only a tiny bit more realistic than transgender, whatever. But, Katie, you were married to a man, but just because you do your sorority girl thing on the side doesn't, okay, whatever. moving on, Katie Hill is completely corrupt. She blames biphobia, and one of her campaign staffer's husband was cheating for her. Now, this also begs the question, did Ilhan Omar know this same hacker? I wouldn't put it past them, because it's very weird how any of these corrupt, awful people got even close to a position of power. So I'm looking at the hacker. And speaking of positions of power, right, Donald Trump is on his pardoning spree, which, whatever, I'm not a huge fan of, but he's still done less than, most of the previous administrations, less pardoning, less commuting, but most notably, he commuted the sentence of former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, who was put in jail for trying to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat when he became president. And, it's just peculiar that Donald Trump ran on draining the swamp, and then he lets out one of the largest swamp creatures in recent memory. And then you look at it, one more layer, this appears to just be a middle finger to James Comey. Now, do two wrongs make a right? Obviously not, but whatever. You can't win them all. Rod Blagojevich is obviously very thankful to Donald Trump. He says he's a Trumpocrat now, so whatever, Rod. You win this round. Donald Trump is also fighting with the mayor of San Francisco and the sheriff over there about these sanctuary cities, and they're making a couple arrests, which just sent all of the Democrats over there into a tizzy. Never mind the corruption happening with, the Department of Public Works head, the mayor, London Breed, who's obviously now fighting Trump over these sanctuary city policies. Never mind all that corruption, which I did speak about. Go ahead and watch that video, those videos. Nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to point the finger at Trump and say he's, big, mean, racist guy for actually enforcing the law, because they love sanctuary cities over there, and they love needle exchanges, and they love safe injection sites, and they love making sure that everybody over there is just a crazed zombie that will literally attack somebody at the sight of a red hat. But I digress. Moving on. Caitlin Bennett was attacked at Ohio University for trying to ask a couple of students some questions about presidents over President's Day weekend. And they, like the programmed zombies that they are, immediately attack her. They don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to answer the questions. They don't want to ask any questions. They just go from on-site right over the conversation straight to arguing and direct violent action. And this is the same group of people that, of course, will tell you that words are violence, but throwing a hot cup of coffee at somebody is not. If they don't, it's insane. We also have the New York Times reporting on Russiagate 3 now, right? Of course, Donald Trump was first a Russian of the agents, an agent of the Russians, and then Tulsi Gabbard was an agent of the Russians. And we got to follow up on Tulsi's lawsuit against Hillary Clinton, if she's still alive. And now Donald Trump is again an agent of the Russians, but on top of that, Bernie Sanders is an agent of the Russians. So clearly, Hillary Clinton's filthy little paw prints are all over this one. I mean, the timing is just too convenient. Right ahead of the Nevada caucuses, right ahead of Super Tuesday, the bomb drops that Bernie is an agent of the Russians. Now, how much of a loser do you have to be to trot out the exact same excuse to defend a loss that hasn't even happened yet? Now, we all know it's gonna happen, just like we all knew Trump was gonna get acquitted of this impeachment stuff, but the Democrats and the fake news media just have to put up a fight. They can't, for 1 millisecond, look in the mirror and say, all right, how can we do a little bit better? How can we gain a little bit of trust back? They just double, triple, quadruple down time and time again. And some people, I guess, continue to still buy it. Now, the Bernie people, I'm sure, are not buying it. The Bernie folks and the Trump folks are like fake news. And that's the same thing that Ilhan Omar was talking about. Well, fake news, I never married my brother. But you're not getting off the hook that easy, Ilhan, because I know you would rather drown than be in the same boat as Donald Trump. Now, Bernie and Trump do have some similarities, right? I think as Steve Bannon put it, that Bernie has properly addressed the problem, but his solutions are all wrong. Whereas Trump has also, identified the problems correctly, but his solutions are a little more realistic. Not perfect, but a little more realistic. And then we've got Harvey Weinstein. The Harvey Weinstein jury is deadlocked on two of the more serious charges he's facing. I think they could all see eye to eye on 3 of the 5, but 2 of them they're deadlocked on, so they got to keep deliberating. And I am not here to defend Harvey Weinstein, but I will say that it's very hard to trust any Hollywood personalities, right? I mean, these are the same people that literally sacrifice their children. I mean, you got Michelle Williams on stage holding a Golden Award, visibly pregnant, talking about how this wouldn't have been possible had she not aborted her first baby. And then you've got Dwayne Wade and Gabby Union transitioning their child who's 12 years old, because that 12-year-old has the capacity to make that decision, but a 25-year-old woman who's trying to get cast in a movie does not have the capacity to decide with a clear mind which hotel room she wants to visit. It doesn't make any sense. So again, I'm not going to defend Harvey Weinstein, but it's very tough to trust a Hollywood personality. Ask Jussie Smollett, right? He's still dealing with this. And speaking of Smollett, Kim Foxx, also out in Illinois, who's a huge swamp creature. Shout out to Blagojevich, who I spoke about. This is a huge, disgusting mess. And hopefully we can untangle this, wired headphones. I mean, it's just a ball of confusion. And little by little, we might be able to claw our way out of it. But if Hillary Clinton and the powers that be have their way, we never will. Everything will just get censored until Bloomberg becomes president and Hillary suicides him. So that's it. That's all I got. Please check back every Wednesday night, every Sunday night, and have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening.